Hey guys, this is the Anime Philosopher here, and I'm back with another Anime Battles video. I'm really excited about this series, and so that's why I'm putting out so many of these Anime Battle videos. But this is the second in this series, so if you guys remember from the first video, the series I'm doing is the Akatsuki from Naruto versus the Warlords of the Sea from One Piece. And I want to see which one of these two groups is stronger. So far we've had one battle, and that was Itachi Uchiha from the Akatsuki versus Bartholomew Kuma from the Warlords of the Sea. And Bartholomew Kuma came out on top. So that means we have one win for the Warlords and 0 wins for the Akatsuki. So Warlords are in the lead right now. However, that can change in an instant. But today we're going to look at another battle, and you guys are going to find this obvious why I paired these two up. The two today are Kisame Hoshigaki from the Akatsuki versus Jinbe from the Warlords of the Sea, and it's pretty obvious why I paired these two up. They're both fish-looking people. Jinbe is a fish man from One Piece, and Kisame, I mean, you're supposed to assume he's still a human, but he definitely could be a fish man. They look very similar. They're very fish-like in nature, so that's why I pitted these two against each other, because I think they fit that way. So, without further ado, let's get into this. So, first I want to talk about Kisame Hoshigaki, because I always do the Akatsuki member first, and then I'll do the Warlord member. But Kisame, like I said in the last video with Itachi, there's 3 basic types of power in Naruto. 3 basic types of jutsu or techniques. There is taijutsu, ninjutsu, and genjutsu. Taijutsu, physical arts. Ninjutsu, powers, usually elemental. And genjutsu is illusions. So, let's go through these 3. I want to start with genjutsu because Kisame doesn't use genjutsu. So that's an easy power to cross off the list. He has no talent in genjutsu, so we're not going to have to worry about that at all. So, let's go then to taijutsu. Taijutsu, other than his swordplay, which I'll talk to after I do these 3, taijutsu is incredible, honestly. He is an incredibly strong character. Brute force-wise, he's one of the strongest characters in the Naruto universe. And what's amazing with that is he keeps his speed up. He's fast, too. Yeah, I mean, he's not the fastest character in One Piece, but he definitely has the speed and the strength to be one of the best fighters that the Naruto universe has. Yeah, the Naruto universe has. So, that means his taijutsu is pretty good. So we got a pretty good... We've seen Kisame do a lot of things, and we know he's a very resilient character as well. He's able to take a lot of damage. I mean, he took a lariat to his chest from Killer Bee, and his whole, rib cage and midsection was shattered, and he got up. I mean, with some help from his sword, but he got up and he kept fighting like nothing happened. So there was an instant there where he was hit, and he kept, breathing, and he was able to take it. So we can see also along with taijutsu, he's an extremely resilient fighter. So he can take a lot of damage, and he can dish a lot of damage out for sure. Now let's talk about his ninjutsu before I get into his kenjutsu. His ninjutsu is phenomenal as well. He is a water-style ninjutsu user. He uses water-style techniques all the time. So his favorites are the water shark bomb jutsu, which is where he creates a shark out of water, a life-size shark out of water, and it hits his opponent and kind of explodes, and like the water explodes, and so that's one of his favorites. He also he can pretty much create water out of anything, which is pretty intense and a pretty amazing level of water-style ninjutsu that Kisame possesses. But by far his greatest water-style ninjutsu is the Super Water Shark Bomb, where he puts his hands in kind of a Kamehameha wave kind of fashion, if you've seen Dragon Ball Z, and he blasts this giant water shark bomb out. So that by far is his best. It creates a very large explosion. He's very powerful. So I would say that's one of his best. Now let's get into his kenjutsu or sword techniques. Kisame Hoshigaki is one of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. So that means he has a sword, and the sword is special. The sword he has is called Samiata, or shark skin. And this sword is unique in that it shreds things instead of cuts them. It is made up of a bunch of sharp scales that go back towards the hilt and the handle of the blade. So it's a large, like, broadsword, like great sword, but it only rips and shreds like that. But what's significant about Samyata is when it shreds chakra too. So it takes the opponent's energy and gives it to Kisame. If Samyata gets enough energy, it actually transforms to grow a mouth at the tip and become almost creature-like in nature, giving Kisame both energy and healing properties to heal Kisame almost instantly from any kind of devastating attack. So, I mean, that's huge. That's pretty a great advantage in this battle for Kisame is going to be that healing factor that he has, along with his great strength. And like I said in the last video, chakra is going to be a problem for Akatsuki members because that's not a concept in One Piece. So they're going to run out of chakra. But Kisame has an immense amount of chakra to begin with. They call him the Tailless Biju is one of his nicknames because of how much chakra he has. He has almost the same amount as a tailed beast. But he's not a tailed beast, and he's not a Jinchuriki at all. He just has that much chakra. Not to mention he can steal the chakra from others with Samyata. So, huge. And his greatest technique is to combine with Samyata. So the sword actually combines with him, transforming him into a very shark-like figure. And usually with this technique, he creates a bubble of water around him, and uses that to his advantage. He can breathe underwater. Usually his opponents cannot breathe underwater. He can move a lot faster underwater, and anytime, if they are in the water, he's absorbing their energy because he absorbs it through his skin in that form, which is, I mean, pretty phenomenal. Very phenomenal, I would say. So, Kisame has his Kenjutsu. I mean, I guess you could call it Kenjutsu. The sword techniques is kind of iffy because of how he uses it, but I mean, that's phenomenal. That's his strong suit by far. He really can hit hard with that Kenjutsu. So now that we've gone over Kisame, let's go over Jinbe. Jinbe, I mean, I gotta say, he's design-wise one of my favorite characters of One Piece. He's really cool. I think he's a really cool design, but we're not talking about design anyway. But I wanted to mention that. So, powers. What does Jinbe have? Like I said last time, there are again 3 big powers in One Piece that we got to go over, and those 3 powers are physical abilities, so things you get outside of the other 2, devil fruit powers, and haki. Let's talk about devil fruit powers first because it's another easy one. Jinbe does not have any devil fruit abilities. He's never eaten a devil fruit, so he has no other abilities that we need to keep track of. He is just him. So, that being said, let's move on to haki because that's another easy one. Jinbe has shown maybe minor signs of having Bososhoku haki, or armament haki, but the other 2 categories, he hasn't shown any signs of having that, and really even that first category, the armament haki, he really hasn't shown a whole lot of signs having it other than blocking Akainu's magma that one time, he possibly could be using haki. I personally don't think he was. So, for the context of this battle, we're going to take haki off the table and say Jinbe doesn't have haki, because it really isn't going to... Kisame isn't made out of water or anything like that, so it's probably not going to affect the outcome of the battle. So, we're going to take that off the table. So, with haki off the table, that leaves one category for Jinbe to excel in, and that is physical abilities. And oh boy, does he excel in physical abilities. Jinbe is a master of Fishman Karate. And Fishman Karate is a type of martial art specific to Fishman, although we've seen with Koala, humans can also master it. But it's a type of martial art that utilizes the moisture in a person's body, in the air, and obviously ocean water even. It utilizes the water in this technique, and it's an extremely, extremely powerful fighting style. And Jinbe is the greatest master in the One Piece world of that. So, being that he's this phenomenal master of Fisherman Karate, that gives him insane levels of power. Jinbe has almost complete control over any water that's around him. We've seen him take water and literally like hurl it over his shoulder like it was like a person, like it was a physical thing. We've seen he has almost total control over water. If you've seen the show Avatar: The Last Airbender, kind of like a waterbender from that show, he can literally grab the water and pull it and take it wherever he wants. He pretty much has all control over water, and that includes inside a person's body. We've seen him doing that punch where it takes a little while, but then the guards like distort, their bodies are like distorted because they're hit so hard. So we see he has the power, and he has almost complete control over water, both in the air, in the ocean, in people even. So that's, I mean, a huge advantage. Now, let's look at his strength and speed. First of all, speed, pretty good. I wouldn't say it's, like, phenomenal for the One Piece world, but it's pretty good. It's definitely above average speed. But that's not his strong suit. Like Kisame, his opponent, this is another reason I put them together, his strong suit is strength, brute force, because the way he fights is very lends itself very well to brute force, so that's what Jinbe uses a lot. So, if we look at the brute force aspect of this, Jinbe, we've seen him do things like be able to kick fishman giants, this huge, probably 10, 15, 20 story tall fisherman. We've seen him be able to kick him once and send him flying. I mean, that takes an insane amount of power. We've seen him used to, that's like the equivalent of kicking a mountain and moving it. That's how big this thing is. It's definitely bigger than 20 stories. I don't know why I said that. But this thing is like big as a mountain, and he kicks it, you know, and sends it flying. So that's obviously, I mean, an incredible feat of strength. Jinbe's strength is phenomenal, for sure. So, I mean, that lends itself to say, what are we going to do with these two? You know, these two strength characters, these brute force characters. Who's going to win? Well, I've already decided who I think would win this fight, and I'm going to get into it. All right, guys, the winner, I think, of this fight is Jinbe. And now you guys are going to start to probably be like, oh, he's biased to One Piece, he's biased to One Piece. I'm telling you guys, I loved Naruto before I loved One Piece. And I'm not biased to One Piece. I would love to see the Akatsuki win. But I think Jinbe beats Kisame Hoshigaki. I think he beats Kisame outright, no questions asked. Why do I think that is? Kisame, let's look at Kisame's abilities. So we knocked Genjutsu off. But what about the ninjutsu, the water style ninjutsu, which is one of his fortes? Giant, I mean, great abilities in that. All of his water style ninjutsu are going to be useless towards Jinbe. Now, why is that? Well, because Jinbe, being a master of Fisherman Karate, can control water, so it won't matter. So Kisame is going to lose in that respect, regardless of what happens, because he can't contain he can't utilize his water jutsu to its best effectiveness, while Jinbe can take whatever water he throws at him and turn it right back to Kisame. So water ninjutsu off the table. So let's look at let's look at his sword and his taijutsu. Strength for strength, blow for blow, Jinbe wins, no questions. We've seen things that Kisame can do. We've seen the strength that Kisame can output. In breaking, and the biggest feat he's done is destroying the wooden shackles that he's in, which does take an immense amount of strength, but it's nothing like kicking a mountain in the air. Jinbe, I mean, we've seen able to do way more than Kisame can do, so I think Jinbe wins in strength. So that leaves Samiyata. And if Kisame keeps stealing Jinbe's energy, and powering himself up, does that mean he can be stronger than Jinbe? I don't think it does. And the reason I say that is because, yes, One Piece characters do get tired, but Jinbe, I think, is faster than Kisame, so the number of times that Samiyato would be able to strike him is limited, and I think Jinbe is smarter than Kisame. Jinbe would know, hey, something's wrong, I feel tired when that sword hits me. I'm not going to let it hit me again. So I think there's no category in which Kisame can win. I think this is an outright victory for Jinbe, even more so than it was for Kuma against Itachi. So the team of Itachi and Kisame didn't do too well in this tournament, or in this series, but I think the winner here is Jinbe. So that makes it 2 for the Warlords of the Sea, 0 for the Akatsuki. Guys, if you liked anything I had to say, please like this video. If you disagree with me, if you think Kisame should have won and there's something I overlooked, please leave comments down in the comment section. And hey, like I said with the last video, maybe I'll have to change it. Alright, and with that, this is the Anime Philosopher, signing off.